So we're going to revert back to the original agenda. Item number 1, and we have Glenn doing the presentation. When you're ready, Glenn.
Thank you, Chairman. Good morning, everybody. So the application before you this morning that I'm presenting is for a proposed new single-storey earth-sheltered dwelling on land opposite Turnpike Farm on London Road in Sutton. In terms of updates, you'd have seen the update sheet with the additional foul water condition. And I suppose by way of a further update on GIRAMS, contact has been made with the applicant's agent on that. And they are, as I understand it, receptive to paying that, but we're just waiting for the paperwork to be sorted pending the outcome of today. So in terms of the key considerations, these are set out in section 5.1 of the report, but perhaps to pick out those which might be uppermost in your thoughts, these are the principle of development, whether the dwelling is innovative, and also the connectivity or the location of the site. As the report sets out, the site is outside of any development boundary, and in order for the principle of development to be acceptable, ordinarily the proposal should comply with another policy and/or allocation of the local plan, or demonstrate overriding benefits. I've probably sat here or at South Norfolk House enough times over the years with applications in front of you for outside of the development boundary where I've been saying no, no, no. So why am I saying yes today? Well, there's been a change in circumstances, and it's also the nature of the application. Council can't demonstrate a 5-year housing land supply. Site is outside of catchments for nutrient neutrality, and also the applicant is proposing an innovative dwelling. In light of the 5-year housing land supply, you're expected to exercise the tilted balance. So effectively, you're weighing up the positives against the negatives, and voila. So let's look at the site. So where are we in the world? Well, we've got the A11 to the south, which is currently being relayed, and this is the Spooner Road turn-off just here when you're going northbound towards Norwich. The listed building referred to in the report is Turnpike Farm. We'll see that shortly, just on the opposite side of the road. And there's also a stone, grade 2 listed stone pillar, about 50 metres to the northwest of the site, somewhere along here. We've got a Highways England depot to the east, cluster of dwellings to the west. The bus stops referred to around about where it says London Road. You probably can't see that on the screen, but perhaps on your presentations, but otherwise it's where the cursor is. And then this road going off screen leads to Wyndham College, which is about 3/4 of a mile from the site. Bus stops are about 400 metres from the site. Distance to other settlements, just to pick out from the report, we've got a mile to Spooner Row and 2+ miles to the centres of Attleborough and Wyndham, respectively. So I suppose I'll get this out of the way early on. In terms of the connectivity of the site, I don't seek to argue in my report that the site is particularly well connected to everyday services that meet everyday needs. And in that sense, it's contrary to policies 1 and 6 of the Joint Core Strategy and policy DM 3.10 of the South Norfolk Local Plan. This weighs against the application, and you'll have to take account of that in your consideration of it with the other factors in mind as well. So let's take a closer look at what's being proposed. We've got the extent of the application site edged in red, with a new access in the northwest corner just here. And then in closer quarters, the yellow disc marks where the application site is. We've got these cluster of dwellings to the west, Highways Depot to the east, Slip Road to the south. This tree belt is not owned by the applicant. That's on the embankment leading from the A11. So just going to take a look at the surroundings of the site. Here's the grade 2 listed building opposite. And here's looking west towards direction of Wyndham College, Attleborough. As the note says, it's subject to a 60-mile-an-hour speed limit. And then this is just a bit further along from the point of access into the site as well. Again, looking west. So that I've just pivoted round and looked east towards the roundabout. And then looking at the block plan, point of access is quite faintly noted on the slide in the northwest corner. We're going to see later on in the presentation, we'll see the tree protection plan. The dwelling along here, and the solar panels to the right of that. And then we've got the pond in the southwest corner, which eventually is where discharge from the package treatment plant will go into. Looking at the front boundary, you can see it's fairly well treed, but it's gappy in places. Dwelling won't be invisible, but we can see how open it is from this angle. There's an opportunity to use a landscaping condition to strengthen the landscaping in that corner, and also to filter views further into the site. So sort of slightly closer up one, the site's fairly featureless, as you can see as well, having been used as a paddock more recently. Got the gate just here. And this is a summer photo, and I've just stepped in. Sorry, this one was a more recent one, last year. No significant change in levels, but if anything, it sort of slightly decreases into this corner, which is why the pond's being presented there as well. And I'm in the opposite corner, near where the proposed access is going to be. Again, just another panoramic view of the site from the opposite corner, looking towards that tree belt along the A11 just there. So let's look at some of the elevations, and I can give you some measurements for the property as well. So you're looking at size-wise. So the length of the dwelling from side to side is just over 19 meters. The height of it is just over 4 meters to the highest part of the curved roof. And then the depth of it, that distance is about 6.6 meters. And at this point, we start considering whether or not the dwelling is innovative or not, and also look at things like the design. So in terms of the design, it introduces a fairly low-key form of development into the surrounding area and onto the site, and that's what I meant in my report when I said it was a quiet form of development. So forgive me for the planning speak in that sense. Views into the site, as we've seen from the previous slides, are filtered along the frontage, and we've got the opportunity in that northeast corner and elsewhere around the site to provide additional landscaping. Clearly the character of the site will change, but to my mind, it makes a neutral contribution to the wider character of the area as it is, and I think this will make a suitable addition to the site. In terms of the innovative nature of it, sorry, I'm just going to show you, this is, beg your pardon, an image of what it would look like within the street scene. I would treat that to some degree with some level of caution. When you look at the trees, it's a bit denser below, but it just gives an indication of that earth bank running alongside the northern boundary, and just how green, verdant, if you will, it will look along that London Road boundary. In terms of the level of accommodation, it's a 2-bed dwelling laid out in a fairly linear form, south-facing windows. And here's a 3D CGI image that's been provided to give you an idea of what it might look like. Innovation then. So is the dwelling innovative, and how does it promote high levels of sustainability? So perhaps the main headline for this is the SAP rating that's being proposed. So what's a SAP rating? It is a measure of a building's energy and environmental performance. Energy performance and environmental performance takes account of things like the materials used, method of construction, the efficiency of heating systems, thermal insulation, air leakage, solar gain, use of renewable energy, and the method of heating. So lots of things go into the calculation sheet to calculate the SAP rating of a dwelling. Average UK dwelling is just over 60. For a SAP rating is just over 60. A zero carbon dwelling is 100. This is proposing 167. That's being checked out by the lead officer at CNC Building Control, who deals with SAP ratings and energy performance certificates, and his comments are set out in the committee report. Ultimately, he considers the dwelling to be innovative, and he's never seen such impressive ratings. Other things to be mindful of: dwelling is being constructed from, it was proposed to be constructed from cement-free concrete. It's going to generate its own energy from those solar panels. And also, it's not proposing any sort of conventional heating system either. It proposes to harvest its own rainwater, treat its own wastewater on site. And although these are not particularly cutting-edge technologies, it shows what you can do by just spinning those existing technologies available to people. So you need not have Elon Musk on hand to develop this for you. There is these techniques are already available, but don't appear to be widely used. And perhaps that's the innovative nature of it, putting a different twist on something that's around already. Paragraph 134 of the NPPF guides us to provide or ascribe significant weight to dwellings that are innovative and promote high levels of sustainability. To my mind, having taken account of the comments received from the likes of CNC, I consider that this does meet that test set by the NPPF. And so I give the innovative nature of this and it being highly sustainable significant weight in the overall balance. Just look at some of the sectional drawings across the site, just to give you an idea of perhaps how embedded it is within, we've got the northern boundary on the left-hand side. And this is the earth embankment that will provide insulation. And then we follow it along, we've got the pond in that southwest corner. And then this is a closer up view showing us it will be a very super insulated envelope. So that's the cement-free concrete there with lots of insulation in and around the building to achieve that high SAP rating. In terms of trees, mentioned this a bit earlier in the presentation. We've got, so this green line here is where the protective fencing is going to be. So with the exception of a couple of trees and a small section of hedge in that northwest corner, the remainder of the trees are going to be retained. We can use a planning condition to ensure that this is in place before work starts on site. And in terms of the trees themselves, as you'd have seen from the report as well, the conservation officer has looked at the application and considers it in arboricultural terms to be acceptable. So weighing up all those things, you've got a number of competing matters to consider. In transport terms, I think it's fair to say, it's not in the most sustainable location. However, as I've said, the council can't demonstrate a 5-year housing land supply. We're in the outside of nutrient neutrality catchment areas, so to exercise the tilted balance. The design is acceptable. Other impacts can be satisfactorily mitigated. We can achieve ecological enhancements. There's going to be modest economic benefits as well through the construction and occupation of the dwelling, as my report sets out in terms of the future. People are going to be learning stuff on this build that they can translate to other projects elsewhere. But also significant weight can be given to this dwelling, promoting high levels of sustainability and it being innovative. And having regard to all of those factors, and when weighing them out and exercising that tilted balance, and having regard to our policies and also the NPPF, my view is that in this instance, and subject to the conditions referred to in the report, the application is recommended for approval, Chairman.
Thank you, Glenn. Are there any questions for Glenn? Councillor Neil?
Thank you, Chairman. I think Glenn has actually probably mostly answered my question. I was just going to, if you like, be controversial in that, obviously it's a very innovative scheme. It's got an excellent SAP rating, but as with the previous one where should have been, it was recommended to refuse because it wasn't in a sustainable location. This one has gone the opposite way in that we're recommending to approve it, even though it isn't in a sustainable area, because there's no footpaths and can't really expect residents to walk on the busy sort of London road to get to bus stops and things. So, but I think, Glenn, you did answer sort of question in that it's a tilted balance, and so as I've said, I think this scheme obviously is very innovative. So my question, sorry, Chairman, is really just to clarify that the benefits outweigh those bits with the sustainable sort of travelling to places. Am I correct with that?
Correct, yeah. I mean, an application in every instance doesn't have to comply with each and every policy of the local plan or the MPPF. It's whether you consider it complies with it when read as a whole. So while it may not be in transport terms in the most sustainable location, when you stack up all the other benefits, do they outweigh the harms, if you like, of building something in this location? And that's something that you need to have in mind as you consider this.
Councillor Bills.
Just a quickie, having lived in a house which is totally responsible, reliant on rainwater, where's the water pump, the water container?
A minimum size 5,000 litre rainwater harvesting system is proposed to be installed in that embankment behind along the northern elevation of the property.
Excellent, thank you.
Councillor.
Yes, thank you, Glenn, for that. Just a strange question. I was looking at the planning portal, so all of the background information on this, and there was sort of long gap between March and now bringing forward this application. Was there any reason for that long time?
We're having discussions with the agent about some of the information that we needed or some clarifications around it. He also had a situation in his sort of personal circumstances that meant he wasn't able to respond for some time. But there's nothing to hide, so to speak.
So just to come back, hypothetical question. So had we not had the issue of nutrient neutrality, which has taken us from having a 5-year land supply to not having a 5-year land supply, if that hadn't have happened and we had a 5-year land supply, would your view of this been different?
Well, I'm in the luxurious position of not being in that hypothetical situation, so I can sort of definitely sidestep that one. But clearly, the balance would start tilting towards the other way, and we would have had to have considered that if we were in that situation.
Right, we're going to move on to public speaking, and the only people I've got are Robert and Belinda. You weren't going to speak, but you prepared to answer any questions? You prepared to answer any questions? Now, does anybody have any questions about it? My question is, your roof is turf, grass, and I know from my lawn, if I don't tend it, I tend to have a lot of weeds, etc. Have you got a plan in place for what you're going to do about that grass on your roof?
I thought it shows turf on the drum. I think it's a cedar root, which is quite commonly used for green roofs.
Right.
So it's a material which is quite fire resistant.
Right. So it's not exactly grass, it's kind of moss or, yeah. All right, okay. So that's the end of public speaking, because I don't think I've got anybody else here. So we're open to members for their thoughts and comments, please. Councillor Holt.
Thank you, Chair. I'm very happy with this application. It's very innovative. I believe there, as has already been alluded by the presenting officer, many lessons here that could be used for other developments in the site, and therefore I will be supporting this application.
Thank you. I'm going to go to Councillor Bills first, because you...
I am totally in favour of this. I think it's brilliant. And as my colleague quite rightly says, there are lots of things in here which could be used in other areas. Thank you.
Councillor Hudson.
Yeah, thank you, Chairman. Yeah, I'll fully be supporting the application. And having watched Mr. McLeod last evening on basically his House of the Year programme, I look forward to potentially seeing this house when it's developed, maybe get to one of the best homes of the year and get on Channel 4.
Did you hear that, sir? Councillor Neil?
No, I don't want to repeat. I think my colleagues have said basically what I was going to say, and I would just propose that we move on to the vote, and hopefully this will go through unanimously, because I think it is an exceptional scheme.
Councillor Ellis?
Yeah, I just think it's great that at South Norfolk we have such a building, such innovation. You know, it doesn't happen very often, and I just think it's wonderful.
Thank you. So the recommendation, it's quite a long one, to authorise the Assistant Director of Place to approve, subject to the unilateral undertaking being entered into that secures contributions, that should be, I think, towards GRAMs, and subject to conditions. And there is an extra condition on, because obviously something not settled, which would be number 14, details of method of foul water disposal to be submitted for approval. All those in favour, please raise your hand.
That's unanimous, Chair, to approve.
Right, thank you. Sorry? Okay. Right, we've had 2 applications, so 5 minutes, just 5 minutes, please. Please be as quick as you can.